we've talked about the business of television. Now we're going to look at sort of ad innovation and where we're at with the market and how do the clients feel towards it and what they are doing. And also their roles and responsibility in delivering this consumer experience. We love to blame the networks and the CTV providers and the tech and everybody else other than the clients about the consumer experience. So let's start putting the clients under pressure about what their role and responsibility is in delivering that. So, Aaron, I'm going to start from you. And you actually need to introduce yourself and what you do in your roles when you ask your first question. CTV, was it oversold to you? How do you feel about the product today? It was interesting what Dave said, by the way. He feels like it's kind of living up to expectations. Do you agree with that?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Aaron Sobol. I oversee media investment at Unilever. Thank you, Andy, and the B team for having me. And Justin, excited to join this bubbly, with a hint of spice, potentially, panel. But thank you. This is a topic, a session that's that I'm very passionate about. Because it is an integral part of the overall, media investment of the future as we dive deeper into streaming. The question is, was it overpromised? No, it wasn't overpromised because this is something that is still being figured out and being developed. It's new, right? So we think about these major platforms that have advertising opportunities. Most of them have, been created over the past 5 years or so. So we're far from expecting perfection, and I don't even know if that's ever a goal in this ever-changing environment of media and marketing. But there was a promise of, I think Dave said it before, a better experience, lower ad load, more digital capability, which I think it's safe to say we are seeing a lot of that come to life. If you experience the new fronts or even the upfronts, a lot of capability is growing, but there's still a lot that has to mature. So I would say that's ultimately where I believe we have to see more maturity, and we'd like to see it faster.
Okay, what specifically do you want to see in that maturity?
Some capabilities that can be deployed across all partners versus 1 of 10.
Okay, so simplicity for the scale.
Yeah, so if there's ad innovations that are being deployed, we have a lot to accomplish as a marketer. So if I want to create a format, I want to deploy it across all streaming partners if it's performing and it drives outcome. So at this point in time, there could be a format that is literally available on one provider, and I can't use it. So I can't scale. I may not learn. It might not be sufficient in terms of the impressions that I could do it against. So I want to be able to deploy more of these future opportunities that are available today, but not everywhere.
Okay, so scale and efficiency. Kate, has the promise delivered expectations? Are you happy with the current state of CTV?
I am. I would agree with Aaron. This is an emerging space that is still very much in development. I think there has been some lack of shared prioritization across the space, which has resulted in us being in a place where an ad innovation might exist with one partner and it can't be scaled across all. So I think that is where we come in, and I liked the way that you set this up in terms of there being some joint accountability here. It is up to us as brands and our agency partners, of course, to communicate what our prioritization is and to look for that overlap where we can to help inform how our partners prioritized in the development, whether it be measurement solutions, ad innovations, content, etc.
Do you think that's a realistic goal, though? Because when you see like the majority of viewing, it'll be the premium ones. So you're talking Disney, Netflix, Amazon. They're going to be operating in silos. Do you really see those sort of companies actually working together to deploy consistent services across their platforms and sharing data, which they're not usually comfortable with, and they're certainly not doing now? Like, is that a realistic ambition?
I would say yes, and I think that's where the joint accountability comes in terms of the constant message that they need to hear from us. So I wouldn't say it's so much them needing to work together, just having that shared synchronization of the priorities on behalf of the brands and agencies.
Andrew, what's your view on this, working directly with clients and deploying services across? You obviously probably share their views. What should and will happen in the market, do you think?
Sure. So Andrew King, VP of Product at TripleLift. I think we need to just broaden the way we think about CTV. It's not just linear, ported over into a new digital environment. There's a lot that is going really well. If you think about where we are today, we've got a lot of diverse ad tiers. For the first time, consumers can choose the amount of ad load that they have. They can go full subscription, have no ads. They can go free and have the maximum amount of ads, but there's also tiers in between. So consumers are opted into what they are willing to accept in terms of advertising. I think that's a really strong intent signal. You also have differentiated formats. It's no longer just a 30-second creative that can run. We have things like pause ads, tiles ads, integrated ads. So there's a lot of different touch points that advertisers now have with the viewer that they never had before. We have new currencies. It's no longer just a GRP or a reach. We're looking at things like attention and things like incremental reach compared to where they're already buying. And programmatic has come a long way, the technology. I would say programmatic technology was not built for television. There's been a lot of joint prioritization amongst the IAB and the tech lab to get programmatic technology to a place that it can start to run TV in an efficient way. This is how we think about ad podding, ad pod lengths, pod position, how we think about measurement with co-viewing. So there's a lot of advancements going on there. And then lastly, it's personalization. I think this is where we're probably in the very earliest stages, which is television is still very much like a brick and mortar store. There's limited amount of inventory. It's like shelf space, but it doesn't have to be. It can be virtual and endless. And I think when we all turn on our televisions, much like the YouTubes or the Netflix algorithms, we're going to start seeing more personalized streams, more personalized content recommendations. So I think it's tough because it's not an apples to apples comparison. And we're talking a lot these days about outcome-based buying. That's like kind of the drinking game of Cannes this week, which is like conversion-based media. But then we're talking a lot about well, how do you get max reach on premium inventory? Like those two things are not necessarily congruent. And if we look at CTV for what it can, the new capabilities, then I think it's not an apple-apples comparison about whether or not we're living up to the promise. And it's how do we take advantage of a new emerging channel to drive the actual business outcomes.
Do you drink every time you hear the word outcome?
Are my eyes red?
Yeah, you must have a very good, very good liver.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your role in this? Because I'm always so critical of the TV industry in the US because ultimately your traditional linear service is terrible, your ad experience is terrible, it's long, the ads are crap and boring, and it's true. Creativity is 50% of the effectiveness of your ads. And Geico, I don't even live in the US, but I know what you guys do. You carpet bomb the category and you have consistent creative, right? So what's your role in this? You heard about all the ad innovations. Consumers do have a lot of choices. Surely your role is to improve that with the creative that you guys supply.
Which is great, by the way. Their creative is fantastic.
Who's that? Unilever's?
Yes.
All of them?
All of them.
Okay. Do you focus on that, or am I talking nonsense?
Justin, I just had the privilege of seeing our Chief Growth and Marketing Officer present at the main stage to celebrate winning Creative Marketer of the Year at Cannes. So a heck of an honor for Unilever. Our ambition is to be the greatest marketer in the world.
Yeah.
That's the drive that is pushed upon our marketing department across the world from our leadership. So it gives us an opportunity to be competitive with ourselves, to be better and improve. But we can't improve in isolation. The job that we celebrated on stage is the job of so many partners, our agencies, our media partners. So to answer your question, what is our role? Our role is to be a great partner. And that's like a personal KPI for myself, and we could have somebody like Jake, who's sitting in the front stage, to say at the end of the year, you delivered on that KPI by being with us throughout the year and talking and pushing us to offer more capabilities that might improve the industry, but certainly improve our needs. We have, we are pushy in a good way, right? We don't want to sit still. I'm not satisfied where everything's at today. I want to be better tomorrow, right? And those are things that, through partnership conversations, we can accelerate things to be built, move the timeline up in a roadmap. So that's just one key area. I think it is a responsibility of a client to be a great partner to everybody who they are integrated with in the system, in the advertising ecosystem, to make sure that we continue to improve. And just another thing, Unilever is so dedicated to improving the industry with brand safety and suitability. It's not just for Unilever, it's for everybody, it's for the consumer. So it's a job to make the industry better and challenge ourselves and our partners.
To be fair, the award comment at the start was a good comeback. and I've got no response to it. Kate, did you win any awards? Can you beat that?
See, I'm
What
bubbly.
do you mean that's not fair? That's perfectly fair. Do you understand your role, though, response? Do you feel the same way with all these ad innovations, stuff like that? And I know that you've got consistent inventory. Like, do you feel the same way, like from a creative perspective too, with all these products coming out?
I do. I think, our role is to be a collaborator in building the solution, not wait to be the recipient of it. And I know live sports came up on in the previous discussion, and the growth of live sports within connected TV. That's an area that we have really leaned into in full. And I can honestly say that every partner that we've worked with in that space, when we've opened up the conversation of we've been working with this league for quite some time. We've been working within this sports territory for quite some time. How can we modernize it? How can we leverage the legacy of the brand of the NFL, for instance, across all of the distribution partners? But when it comes to streaming, modernize the delivery of the message that we ultimately want to share with viewers and customers. And we've done that quite successfully, I would say, in the last year.
Can you give that Amazon example that you gave me on the phone, or was that private? I've outed you now anyway, so you got to give it. It was brilliant though. It was brilliant. It was branding plus execution and performance, wasn't it? So can you just share that, because that's a good example for the room.
I actually just ended a panel with Andrew Whitworth talking about this program, so happy to.
Okay.
We are a partner of Amazon's Thursday Night Football. Amazon is a great partner to us. We dipped our toes in the water when they had their first season of being a distribution partner for the NFL. When the second season came around, we wanted to do something different. We wanted to do something modern, and we essentially built a native quoting platform within the Amazon marketplace where from a live Thursday Night Football ad exposure from Geico featuring Andrew Whitworth to actually binding an auto insurance policy, we got that down to 3 minutes. So we could actually serve the ad, complete a quote, through this native experience, and ultimately close out the binding of a policy in under 3 minutes, which was an industry first, something that we were really proud of, and very much is representative of our push of modernization within legacy brands like NFL live games to really measure business outcomes. And we had the full ability to do that. We were so pleased that we were able to spark a customer action that did not require the viewer to leave the content that they are very passionate about and engaged in, and still provide them with utility and ultimately a solution that would benefit them.
So I just want to add, that's super exciting and, just relatable because one of the key objectives as we advance here is to be able to build brands and drive frictionless commerce. And in CTV, that is a reality that it can do it. So Kate's example is something that literally within 3 minutes, that's amazing. The speed, the information that you could learn, and then the relationship that you could have with those consumers who were exposed and, really connect with them and deliver a better experience for them as you hit them with the second ad, the third ad, to be more personalized. So that's really that is a future state that's being activated now.
Yeah.
So I think that's an exciting thing that as an industry, we would love to see more of that. But it takes a lot of work, a lot of partnership to do that. But that is really an amazing, so I'm glad you pushed for her to bring that to life in front of the audience today because that is building brands and driving frictionless commerce.
Pushy is where I show my skills, but that is all I've got. Andrew, you have more skills. Show us.
Well, I haven't won any awards, so...
Yeah.
But I actually have a question here, because I think we're seeing a lot of this test and learn budgets in CTV with these different activations, see a lot of different formats. I guess the question to the advertisers here is, how do we get from the test budgets into a standard media practice budget? I think, to your point, it's, you want it to be more ubiquitous, but is it really truly just scale, or is it other things that you're looking at before you move it from an experimental budget into something more standard?
I consider our entire budget to be test and learn. There's not a single dollar that goes in a market that we're not holding accountable to a very clear set of standards when it comes to performance. So for us, I don't think there is a shift. I think CTV, streaming TV, that is very much part of the fabric of our go-to-market strategy, and we hold it accountable to delivering results the same way we would for any other piece in that fabric.
Looks like he's
you're
doing the moderator now.
You're being double teamed.
Yeah.
Sorry, officially.
So
I was curious.
It's a Kate and Aaron sandwich right now. We just need some mayo. Where's Helmut's at? Yeah.
Nice plug.
So, you know, I love your response, and I would just say, like, this goes back to, like, the first question about why are we talking about it as, like, experimental? There are formats that you announced before that were launched 4 or 5 years ago, such as Own the Pause, that, you know, Coke and Charmin launched with Hulu. They're still not available, you know, with every partner yet, more and more, but it's presented as a novelty. So is that the advertiser's issue or the ones that are selling it to treat it like a novelty when that's been there? So it's a competitive space right now. Streaming partners are just not competing against streaming partners. They're competing where $1 goes, $2 goes, $3 goes, and brands are going to shift to where they're seeing performance and those outcomes, right? So, so that's why I think it's a responsibility for our agency partners, us to push to say, well, do we know if we dialed up that type of format enough? Do you have the supply that could meet, you know, the demand of that format? Those are questions we should be asking ourselves so that it's not just like, oh, 1% of my plan is this, right? Maybe it's a different percentage, and to every brand, every account, it could be different. But, you know, I think this experimentation, I think we have to be real honest with ourselves. What is really experimental at this point? Because there is net new stuff that will get rolled out, always. But there's a lot of stuff that's been in market for years that maybe should be more ubiquitous at this moment.
Can I ask you like a theory question? This is one
Sure.
of my boring questions. So like FMCG, your brands, you're in like something ridiculous, like 80% of homes, right? So omnipresence, mental availability is critical to your success. Am I right in saying you're moving more money to conversion-based media? Would you say that's fair? Yes or no?
I would say there's a heightened focus on being more full funnel.
Yeah. Oh, okay. What does that mean? Heightened focus. Are you dancing around the question?
I'm not dancing,
Okay.
but I didn't say the answer was more conversion.
Okay. But if you move that way, are you concerned about like measuring the short-term effects and relying on those metrics that can be misleading and then not ruining, but at the expense of your sort of mass market adoption?
No, I'm not stressing about that at all because we're in this room talking about the future of CTV and that you can build a brand and drive frictionless commerce all at once.
Yeah.
You could give that, you know, on a 50, 60-inch screen, you could do a lot with that. There's a new canvas to play with. So you're not forcing conversion on anybody. You're giving the option. It's a yes-and opportunity. It's different than other formats that might exist, but I like the yes-and play.
The yes and play? Kate, what do you think?
I would pivot the question to, are we increasing the opportunity to convert? And the answer is yes. And I think the example I just gave with Thursday Night Football in terms of in a live NFL game offering a viewer an opportunity to complete an auto insurance quote before the next play, that is increasing the opportunity to convert in a mass media, by your terms, opportunity.
Are your doors always open then for these new innovations, for people to come in and show you like new ways of doing things, new ways to connect with consumers, a new way to convert?
100%.
Okay. Can I ask also a question on budgets? You might not want to answer this one. Do you consider YouTube as part of your CTV buy? If it's on the screen, big screen, is that part of your CTV buy?
If we take a video neutral approach, 50 to 60% of YouTube viewership is in the living room. So
Who told you that?
think about that.
Who told you that? Is that a Google stat? I'm not saying it's not true. Might not be.
If you've scrolled through LinkedIn in the past week, I think you've seen all the stats from other players in the CTV business that are trying to get some attention, and YouTube's always there. So it's not just coming from
It's a
YouTube.
huge growing. It is like, you know, number one or number two in a lot of markets. For
I mean, we're thinking about we are doing things to be in service to the consumer, and if that's where hours and hours of time are being spent, that's the living room, that's TV. And if you view that, if you're actually curious, which I think is a critical trait to be in this industry, you will see a lot that maybe can be deployed in other places that are happening with YouTube in that environment. So there's a lot to learn from that 50 to 60% of the impressions.
Okay. Kate, you agree? Final
Agree,
point?
fully.
You agree on that? Andrew, do you want to wrap this up since we're co-moderating it?
Sure. I think it was a very thoughtful discussion. I learned a lot, and I think on the conversion point, what's measured is managed. That's why you see the insane amount of spend on social platforms. And I think now that we're getting much more granular in how we measure conversions from a television exposure, it's natural that it's going to be a bigger part of the conversation.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, can you join me in thanking my guests? I think they've been wonderful answering my questions.
Thank you.